Good morning, team. How's it going? And welcome to another Battlesnake Sunday with me, Corey. Thanks for joining. Today's gonna probably be a nice simple stream. I don't think we're gonna do a super long one today, but I guess we will see how it goes. So recently okay, sorry, gotta go back. Gotta do my Battlesnake intro for anyone who doesn't know what Battlesnake is, since today is Battlesnake Sunday after all. So Battlesnake is an online multiplayer competitive game. It's kind of like this graphic you see over here on the side. Hopefully my face isn't too much in the way. So the snakes run around the board, and basically you control one of these snakes by building a web server, and every move the engine tells you where all the snakes are, where all the food is, and maybe where any hazard squares are and stuff like that. And you just have to decide if your snake should go up, down, left, or right, and try to be the last one on the board. It's a really fun competition, and I've been playing for, almost about 2 years now, and really enjoying it and love the community of it. There's a great Discord and a good group of people who love building snakes and love doing silly game modes and having a lot of fun. And so I have been loving doing that for the little bit here. And so we're gonna do some battle snaking today. And I'm not sure if we're gonna do too much coding today. Today might be more of a hanging out, looking at some API changes, chatting about some community tournament stream. But we'll see where we go. If anything, I think we'll dive into the rules repo that powers the engine that runs these games. And we might take a look at some of the different game modes. There's a snail mode that me and another community member, Jonathan Arns, built a couple months back now that I think we might look at. We might use it in one of our community tournaments here soon. So it's gonna be a fun time. We're just gonna wander around. If there's anything you want to chat about, hit me up in chat. Would love to go wherever everyone wants to look today. Okay. And with that, let's dive right in. So Brad from Battlesnake just posted, or not just, yesterday I think, posted this gist about some proposed API changes. So how Battlesnake works, like I mentioned, is every turn you get a posted message of the board and all the game. And so this is a change to what they call the webhook API, since technically their engine kind of does a webhook request to you to decide what move you should make. So we are going to look at the proposed API changes. So I saw the stock a little bit yesterday, but didn't really read it. So I'm going to read it through, and this will be my first time actually reading it. And we will see. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to split screen this over here on the left. And I'm going to put my IA writer over here. Proposed Battlesnake API changes, January 2023. Thoughts. Corey's thoughts. Actually, I think I'm going to rearrange this a little bit. We're going to call this Corey's thoughts on the proposed Battlesnake API changes. Awesome. Let's make this a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. Battlesnake, you're going to need to know what Battlesnake is. Can I add you to... No, there's no add to dictionary button? We're gonna have to figure out a learn spelling. Wasn't that just not there a second ago? Huh, well. Okay, there we go. Now I caught my spell check about Battlesnake. Okay. So let's just go down. One is the TTL. One is the TTL for food and hazard. So I haven't read this item yet, but this is one that we've talked about in Discord before. So in the old API, just, the current working version, in the move endpoint, this is going to be the main one. This is the one that every time you want the snake to make a move, you post to the move endpoint with all the information. So this is mostly going to be the one we're looking at. So inside the board object here, there are food and hazard arrays. And in the currently live version, I think we're going to call that version 1 of the API. The food and hazards are just arrays of simple coordinate objects. So the food just has an X and a Y, and all the hazards just have an X and a Y. And there's no metadata or anything associated to the food and the hazard. But what we're talking about here in this one is allowing the food and hazards to indicate when they'll be automatically removed from the board. And so there aren't any maps that, well, we mentioned snail mode before. There aren't any live maps in Battlesnake, so there aren't any non-community made maps in Battlesnake that I'm aware of. that remove food and hazards after a certain number of turns. And we like the idea of doing that, but one thing that's kind of annoying is if the game mode is saying, I'm going to remove this hazard, for instance, after 5 turns, it's nice to be able to expose that to the snakes without them having to, like, just know how the game logic's implemented internally and stuff like that. And that's another option, right? You could just say the game rule was that it's going to disappear in 5 turns, and it's the snake's job to know that. But that just makes it a little harder to actually work with. So the idea is we can add a TTL, turns to live, to the food and hazard objects that say how long this thing is going to live, right? So here, this food is going to go away in 5 turns. This food looks like it's going to go away maybe after this turn. Maybe that's what 0 signifies. I think we'll want to be, explicit about that, but I think that's pretty reasonable. And then these hazards have some long time to lives, 99, 98, 97. Ideally, this could be communicated in advance. Yep, to avoid the frustration of food randomly disappearing. Yep. Note that we will still support food and hazards that remain on board indefinitely. This could be accomplished by a number of different ways, either by omitting the TTL, setting it to null, or some other special value. Yep, that seems reasonable. So, open questions. Is the TTL property required? What does it mean if it's not present? How should indefinite placement be represented? Are objects removed when TTL is 1 or 0? What happens if a battle snake moves onto food the same turn it's removed? Love these questions. I'm just gonna go down and give my what I would do answers to each of these, I think. Something like that. Okay, is the TTL proper? So then my answer is gonna be not required. Presence. If the key is present, it should have a non-null, non-negative integer value. So yeah, here we go. Not required. If the key is present, it should have a non-null, non-negative integer value. A missing key or nil or null value. Like I would take a null value here. I don't really know if I give too much preferences on that, but I like the key not being required. A missing key means, I don't know if I like that. Am I gonna say that a missing key means there's no TTL? Is that gonna be harder for me to parse? No, I would just do it as a none, and I think I can tell Serday that it's just optional. I don't know. I don't think I have a huge preference here, right? I'm gonna write not required, but required and nullable is reasonable as well. Yeah, like in this case, I don't really think I have too much of a preference whether the key is left off or it's null when there isn't a TTL, but I think I like that better than a special value of like -1. Either missing key or a null value. I'd prefer that over a magic number like -1. Oops. Yeah, I really think that it should just be missing. Like, a turns to live semantically of -1 doesn't really make sense. I know we often use -1 as like a marker of like this is a special value, but I think I would rather not. I think I'd rather use null or a missing key to mean that. Objects with a TTL of 0 will not be on the board next turn. I think this matches semantically with the turns to live. If a object still has one turn to live, it feels like it should make it to the next board. No strong feels though. I think 0 just feels nicer to me. You just count down to 0, and you never go negative. But I don't have a strong feel. If 1 feels better, like that's fine with me. So I'm gonna bold my like quick answers, and then we're gonna leave the whole paragraphs down below. What if a battlesnake moves onto food the same turn it's removed? Shrug. I think we just decide a turn resolution order and enforce it. I guess I think eating before food is removed seems like it ideally should eat it. Kinda how eating a food in hazard keeps you alive. But on the other hand, it feels like maybe a hazard shouldn't damage you on the same turn it's removed. Is that inconsistency weird? I think I'd rather have consistency rather than either direction. I think I'd rather this be consistent for food and hazards. Less preference on before versus after. Yeah, I don't know if I have much of a preference. I think it's gonna feel weird for either of them. I kind of feel like foods, if you get them on their 0, you should eat them, but I kind of feel like, basically, I think I'm taking the safe options for the snakes. If put on the spot, I like the safe option for the snake, which is food stays, food gets counted, and hazards don't. Actually, I wouldn't say I don't like this. The most logical to me seems to be the one that is safest. I don't even know if I like logical. And hazards don't. Maybe it's natural. But I think the difference in object types there might be confusing without a benefit. Like I just don't know if it makes sense to treat food and hazards differently with the TTLs. I think if we're gonna do TTL, it might make sense to treat them the same. But all in all, I think TTLs are great. I think they'd be a lot of fun. And I think they'll make snail mode a bit easier, which is good because we are gonna talk about maybe doing snail mode for a community tournament soon. I think snail mode might make a good first community tournament, mostly because it's already implemented. And then we can give people, maybe a month-ish to build a snake for snail mode, and then in that month maybe we can take a little bit of time when we have it to maybe work on the next game mode and kind of do it that way. Cool, I like that. I like the TTL. I think the hack that we used for TTL at the moment is we just stacked multiple hazards on top of each other. Which is fun since that's possible. And so might not actually need this for doing the snow mode as implemented, because I think we have a different way to accomplish a similar goal, and just order of operations. I think we could be okay without this at the moment, but I do love the idea, and I think it would be great to have. Allow maps to vary the amount healed and damage received by individual food and hazards. Yeah, I like this. Oh, and then here, in 2022, we experimented with stacked hazards, which is just what I was talking about, right? Putting multiple hazards in the same location. The results were a lot of fun, and since we've heard a few awesome map ideas that would expand on this, yeah. One reasonable concern about this approach is that it means food and hazard coordinates are not unique on the board, meaning API requests could potentially be of unbounded size. This is not great for highly optimized battlesnakes. Rather than encourage object stacking, we'd like to propose adding variability to individual food and hazards in the form of a value property. For food, this would indicate the maximum amount of health restored. For hazards, it would indicate the amount of additional damage received. Nice. These objects would be immutable for the lifetime of the object. And I assume this has something to do with the TTL, right? Where, you know, if this thing has a TTL of 100, its value is going to be 100 the whole time, and they're not going to change. That's interesting. I think this is the thing I'm actually going to have the most opinions on here. Because it strikes me as an interesting restriction. One, just interesting because I hadn't thought of it, which isn't bad, right? I just didn't cross my mind. But the other reason that is interesting is it feels a little hard to implement, especially when custom maps at the moment can kind of do whatever they want, right? It would, like, it feels hard to enforce that, because like as a custom map, I think I could just break it. Like I could be like, oh no, well someone ate that food and another one came up that's only 50 value or something instead of this 100 value. So it feels hard to enforce, but maybe that's not the point, right? Maybe it's just like a, you know, we that's how we're thinking about using this mechanic at the moment. Because like I could also see it kind of be interesting to be like a food starts at 100 and decreases by 5 every turn or something. And like I know we might want to encode that separately, and you know, maybe it's not just that the map would want to decrease the value. Maybe you'd want to add a decay thing here, kind of like TTL, but maybe that's getting ahead of ourselves. It being immutable just seems potentially limiting, but down to, but I understand like it goes with the vein of the TTL, where you don't want these to be surprising. You don't want it to be surprising that next time this value goes to 95. But I do think it's going to be hard to guarantee. Oh, but I love value. I think it's great. I love stacked hazards, so having a way to do stacked hazard-ish ideas without actually stacking hazards is nice. I guess stacked hazards you didn't get for free that this damage was going to stack, because it depended on your implementation. If you were only checking for exists, you wouldn't have done the value checks. So I do think this is valuable. And I like this. Okay. Let's get to some open questions. Okay, that one. Okay. Are these properties optional? If so, what does it mean if they're not present? Oh, optional. Yeah, I think they should be optional, I guess. Yeah, I think optional. Yeah, I don't know. It's not really that, like, if it's optional, it helps anyone, because the engine's just going to send it, right? So if it's optional, the server can just leave it out. But the server also has no problem sending it. So it's really, as a snake receiving it, do I ever want to get a null here, or do I just want to get values? Nah, I don't think they need to be optional. If they are some default in the rules object or something would make sense. Don't see a huge benefit benefit to not always sending them. If they are optional, some default in the rules object probably makes sense. Is value the best name here? What about heal and hazard damage? Value is nice in that I can use the same type for both food and hazard parsing. But I think I like the semantic value of damage and heal. Yeah, I like this one better. I think there's more benefit. I think there is more benefit in the semantic value and being able to guess at their usage from reading the JSON than to use the same type for parsing. And it's just for parsing, right? And I could even like parse them from different things into the same thing. It's really not that big of a deal, I don't think. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Let's have these be negative. I just don't see a reason why not. I say we do it. How do we codify the current behavior of food heals to full? Not sure. I feel anything needs to change. Maybe just an explicit call out in the docs page if it's not present already. How do we codify the current behavior of food heals to full? Yeah, I think you just say that snakes have a max health. I guess you could send a max health field in the rules or any object if you don't want to rely on max health always being 100. I don't think you need to like codify the fact that food heals you to max, but I could see it being useful to codify what max health is in case you want to change that from 100. I think that could be reasonable. Ooh, this thing. I want to write something about this. Is the benefit here predictability? Predictability? Seems like a. I like the predictability. The ability. But it does limit map makers. Not to have changing values in there. Not have changing values. For instance, food that rots and decays over time could be interesting. Stacking hazards kind of let us do the same for hazards, where over time we could adjust the stack count. For instance, Snowblood uses this. Or did in one prototype. to alter the damage over time. Like, I really get that I think the want here is to make these things predictable. And I think, unfortunately, predictability is kind of at odds with some of the game modes doing really fun and crazy things. And I understand fun and crazy things might not be ideal for, like, the competitive seasons and tournaments. But since we're thinking, or I am thinking, about the community-led kind of more silly games played semi-professionally, as our tagline is going to be, I think. I think some of these weird, fun game modes where there might be things that happen more unexpectedly are kind of fun. And I don't want to move away from them completely, but I do see how they're, like, you know, maybe more intimidating to newcomers and not as good for maybe some competitive play. So I understand wanting to do things that limit that. But I think there's some tension there. I also think the thing I haven't wrote here, but I've said a few times, is feels hard to guarantee in code. You know, definitely possible. It seems a bit hard given the map interface we have right now. Rule sets. Let's read. Replace game.ruleset with game.rules object. A lot of these properties are deprecated, now controlled by individual maps. Yeah, okay, so there was this rule set which has all of these settings for things. It has food spawn chance, minimum food, hazard damage, hazard map, royale, squads, which, like, I haven't even ever played. Lots of information here. And then the new behavior would be a game.rules object that holds configuration coming from the game rules rather than the map. Okay. Note that it would call it rules and not rule set in an effort to match the rules repo name. Beyond version information, we don't have much else to add to this object right now. Okay, so rules is going to be different than maps, which makes sense. That's like kind of a naming, like, not tension, but a naming difference that's existed in the rules repo for a bit. So I like exposing that out a little bit more and making it more obvious. So I like that. I think rules with a version sounds great. Maybe out of bounds handling should be specified here too, since it's relevant to all games. Eliminated versus wrapped. Yeah. Okay, so let's write this. Open questions. Agreed. I think wrapped is became a rules mechanic, not a map mechanic. So it makes sense here. So I want to keep reading before... Okay, I'm going to read the game.map stuff before I answer everything about game.rules, because I think they're going to interplay. Basically, I want to know where we're thinking to put things like hazard damage and stuff. Maps are the future. Over time, we'd like to push more game control into map definitions, including out-of-bounds handling, food, and hazard TTLs, and even special elimination conditions. Eventually, challenges will be written as maps as well. Okay, interesting. I'm down, but I want to let's see. Provide more map-specific information, and the API is going to become increasingly important. Yep. Right now, this information is rather haphazardly as part of game rule set above, and map is simply a string ID. We'd like to change this to support additional map meta information. So right now, you get a game with a map that's a string. Now we want to make it a object that contains metadata about the map and its configuration for this particular game. Something like minimum food, food spawn chance for standard, and royale maybe has shrink every end turns. Cool. Okay. I think my biggest thing here is figuring out what actually is a rule thing versus what is a map thing. And I just don't think... And I know I've talked about this before, and I've, like, done maps before, so I know this a bit, but it's never the clearest to me what the intended distinction of those two concepts is. Especially because maps, and maybe it's just, maybe this sentence is the end. Rules doesn't want to be anything. So maybe this just, like, I wonder if rules needs to be an object. I wonder if this just wants to be game.version. I'm wondering if there is no rules. Yeah, maybe it's not. Huh. Do we need this at all? Do games just have a top level version key for the game engine version? That seems like it might fit better with the maps are the future idea. I wrote this before reading the maps are the future sentence. So I feel this could go either way. I'm just gonna, these thoughts aren't gonna be super organized, but they're gonna be here. I kinda like moving to maps for everything, mostly because I never was able to fully internalize the difference between rules and maps as currently. Maps can and do control things that feel like game mechanics / rules. So I think collapsing down to a single concept here might make more sense. I think I need to think about this more though. This whole section, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna write it this way. The rules versus maps handling is the one thing from this doc I feel the least confident about. I just don't feel like I know an amazing answer to this problem. Or I guess maybe it's that I don't know if I feel like I understand the whole problem or the right solutions. I don't know. There's a lot of ambiguity here that I think could be that I think I could sit down and think about for a lot longer. I'm not sure I'd come up with a different answer if I thought about it for a long time. But I think I could convince myself back and forth for quite a while. Okay, so are there any specific questions about map though that I didn't answer? Open questions, yeah, okay. Okay, so let's do a 4 dot, this. General thoughts about rules versus maps is above. So let's just do the open questions. Is map author actually useful here? Yeah. Feels easy to include, so I would. I don't think it's necessary, especially if there is a docs page or something with mappings. But it is fun information and seems easy to send. Oh, I didn't like that I italicsed it? That's hilarious. Any value in adding a map name? I'm gonna shrug again. I don't have a ton of feels here. If there is a docs page with mapping / able, not a big deal. But again, seems easy to include. Alternatively, I don't think it would be crazy to remove either name or ID as a concept and collapse to whichever. Likely ID. If we think there is value, don't know. We'll do the royal we. If we think there's value in having a name that is different than the ID, it probably makes sense to send it to stake. I think that's my thesis of this one. Don't care that much. But if we think there's a reason that name exists as something different than ID, seems like we should probably send it. Okay. Do these changes warrant a new API version? I think I'm just gonna say yes is my answer. I'm a big fan of Semver and would love at least a Semver inspired version here. So while this might not be a breaking change to 2.0, maybe this is a 1.1 release or something. And then with the exception of game.map becoming an object instead of a string. If this isn't a breaking change. Could do a 1.1 for a bit that dupes. Oh, we're using the same name though. Oh. This is a version bump. Yeah. Oh yeah, this feels like a breaking change. If we can come up with a renamed key, I feel like doing a 1.1 might be fair. But changing from key to object does feel like it warrants a bump. And this is supposed to be fair, just finding a typo. During active play, how do we handle API version 1? This would obviously be more work, but do we want some kind of grace period where snakes can opt into the new or older schemas. Like does the snake info return a API version that opts into 1.x or 2.x? If we do something like that, do we maybe want to ship a 1.1 that's all the additions, and then the only diff between 1.1 and 2.0 is the maps object changes? And dropping rule set. I'm not sure about that. I do think if we're changing maps though, it feels like it needs a version bump. Agreed, that's going to be annoying. So then do we just rename map? Does map really just become map metadata? Map rules? Could just be boring and call it map object. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. I don't have an amazing answer for that one. Map's like the very obvious name, right? It feels correct. Yep, I think I vote for a 2.0. I'm not really sure how big of a breaking change this would be though, and how much this is going to screw up everybody. Because you definitely can't just do it, right? Then every snake is going to break that's trying to parse the map property. Which probably isn't everyone, but like if you're trying to parse it up ahead of time, you're definitely going to break on the difference between an object and a string. So I guess this is the one that makes me worried. If we can come up with a new key, then I think it could be shipped iteratively and not too big of a deal. But doing this non-iteratively is going to be hard for players to do. Not like actually hard, but like you're going to have to update your snake, which is it's going to be hard. Maybe this is map rules or something. Here's an interesting idea. What if you nest map under rules? What if rules is this top level thing that has a version, which is the engine version, and then under that has a map? Put new map object under rules. That would remove the collision on map under board or under game. This would remove the collision on map under name and make it so it's not technically a breaking change to add the new keys. Removing the old ones does still feel like a breaking change, but since that's more cleanup, we'd at least be able to roll out all the new info without breaking existing snakes. Then dropping the old stuff can be done over a longer period of time. Maybe could even brown out by occasionally dropping the old keys as a warning to the changeover. This is something that like some big API providers do that I kind of like. I think GitHub does it, for instance. If you're hitting an API that they're going to deprecate and remove soon, they'll occasionally start making it fail ahead of time, like at some percent chance. So you know, might see some failures and have a chance to look into it before it actually starts completely blowing up. I like it. Occasionally, I think that's how you spell that word. I think this is my favorite idea for maps because I think a full-on breaking change to get new data is going to be hard for the community. Like it's just going to be hard to get the whole community to upgrade to get the new features. So it seems nice to be able to ship something that doesn't break existing snakes while adds functionality to the snakes that want to start reading it. And so I wonder. So I think my favorite answer is doing something that doesn't have a collision on map. Game.rules.map seems fine. It is the rules of the map that doesn't seem super crazy. I think game.map is the more natural place for it, but I think it's gonna be slightly harder to get there. Another thing about map that's moderately interesting is the settings. Those feel like they could be slightly hard to parse just because they're gonna be different for every map. And like that's gonna be fine. It's just gonna be potentially a little harder for me to deal with. I can, you know, I'll make it work. But I'm wondering if we want to have some relatively defined schema here. Defines. Let me just make a other thoughts. Oh, I guess this can be an other thought. That's fine. Define schema for map settings. Is there a way to do we want maps to specify their settings up front? I think it would make sense for a map at a specific version to always have the same settings keys so that devs can parse the bodies nicely. Does that mean that custom maps should specify their schema in some discoverable way? Should the CLI rules listing feature that I think can be maybe in Discord wrote recently, they were talking about that recently. I didn't know it existed, but it's awesome. Include the expected schema for each map. Because it does seem like I would want to know what things are going to be in there. Like for standard, I want to know that there's a minimum food and a food spawn chance, for instance. Map stacking. This is something that just came to mind as I was talking. Right now in code, or last I looked, has probably been a few months. Some of the maps, most, were implemented by calling the standard map at some point to handle some basic operations on the map. For looking at the example provided, standard and Royale map settings, I noticed that Royale didn't include the settings from standard, like food spawn chance and minimum food. But I believe those also apply to this game mode. Would we want to simply include all the keys in Royale? Or is it worth it to try and have some way to represent the stack of maps? Not sure if just including all the keys up front seems easier, but the idea of stacked maps does seem interesting. Not sure it's a good idea, but I think it's very interesting, right? And if you push that really far, I think you can see that all the way through the maps thing, where like maybe your map, I don't want it to inherit, but you know, it says that it's a standard map and follows all these rules, plus it does these ones on top. I don't know though, I think that could be weird because I think sometimes in the maps you want to pick when you want to do standard because the timing's not the same, so like maybe it just makes sense just to throw all the things in Royale. So Royale would be shrink every end turns, plus minimum food, plus food spawn chance, and all of that. I guess I think that's probably the best. But I think the idea of map stacking is at least moderately interesting. Okay, cool. I think Semver. It's just checking all my spelling. Okay, let's give this another read through, see how we feel, and I think we will just go post this as a comment on the gist. TTL for food and hazard. Is it required? I don't think it needs to be. But required and nullable is reasonable as well. If the key is present, it should have a non-null, non-negative integer value. A missing key means no, means indefinite. How should indefinite placement be represented? That's this answer. I don't want a magic number. I think that thing should be removed after 0. Like if it has a TTL of 0, it will not be on the board next time. But as a TTL of 1, it will be on the board next time. I think that matches semantically. I don't know about what happens when a battle snake moves into food the same turn it's removed. I think it should just be consistent with hazards, and I think we should make a decision. Yeah, not sure. I have too many feels there. Okay, allow maps to vary the amount healed and damage received by individual food and hazards. Yeah, I love it. I think that I like the semantic value of damage and heal. And yeah, they should be negative because that seems fun. The immutability is, I think, the thing that was the most interesting to me. I like predictability, but I also like crazy game modes. Kind of a tension there. Replacing rule set with rules sounds great. This is where I think I talk about the difference between maps and rules a little bit. Feel like I just don't understand, where I don't know if I understand the right difference between them. So maybe this is a chance to kind of play with that and see what the differences are. I like getting gamed up map as an object. I like the extra things here. I think it makes sense. Author and name, I feel like they should be included because they're easy, unless map.name is just deleted as a concept. And yeah, I think we're gonna need a new API version unless we do this, unless we find a way to get map to not collide. Maybe by putting it under rules, or maybe renaming map to something else. I do think we're gonna need to get to a 2.0 eventually to clean this up and get it to a pristine state. Because if we go to a 1.1, there's probably some like deprecations and some cruft that we'll want to remove in 2.0. I think these settings need to have some kind of defined schema so you know what to expect. Maybe you need to, like when you make a game mode, specify that up front so that the engine and everything knows what it's going to be ahead of time. And then this was kind of just a random thought when I noticed that Royale didn't have all of the settings for standard. I think the easiest way is just going to be to do it right. If you're making Royale, you know that minimum food and food spawn chance still apply, so you should add them to your settings. I think it's kind of interesting to think about stacking, but I don't know if it's the right. I don't know if just doing it because we're changing the schema is the right time. I guess it would change the schema, so maybe it's good to think about it, but I kind of think you just throw these settings into Royale and call it a day there. Cool. Okay. Love it. Let's get this copy pasted. We're just gonna leave it here. Chatted through this with myself on stream. Leaving my notes here, but I will try to add a link to the VOD when I finish streaming. Okay. Comment. And then actually, maybe before I commented, I could have done this, which is, can I make these bigger? Yeah, I can. Okay, awesome. So Brad left this in Discord to, see if we had any ideas here, and then Chillfox had some comments. So I'm gonna read Chillfox's comments, see if we agree, see if there's anything they said that sparks an idea for me. And yeah. This could become some additional timeout features. Oh yeah, so TTL would go on all things, that makes sense. Yep, I agree that no missing state should mean no timeout. Yeah, I don't really love the magic number, but it would totally work. Not including value would require stating a default value somewhere. Yep. Optional default somewhere would be good for keeping the size of the JSON down. That's fair. I hadn't really thought about keeping the JSON super small, but that's totally reasonable. Removed when they hit 0. Yep. Yep. Renaming them certainly feels more snaky. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that, but I do. You know, it gives some feeling. I like that. I think I like the heal versus damage names better, but no super duper strong feels. Yep, default of 100. Yep, I like that. Yep, map things are good. And yeah, we probably want a new API version. Time travel idea in other case maps would probably use a way of keeping track of map specific state for each snake. If a map could add its own properties to settings, then all we need is something similar to snakes. Yep, that'll be interesting. Are we still having different game modes as a separate concept from maps? Yeah, I love this question. Because if we are, then something like time trial would make more sense as a game mode that can be applied to many maps the same way Constrictor and Raft is. So I'm thinking that either Wrapped or Constrictor into map types that have represented map settings, or add a separate object to them for cat moves. Yep. Agreed. Name, yeah, this is the name ID chat that I was having. I don't know if name is useful over ID ever, but if you have them, might as well send both. Okay, back to this idea though, adding its own properties. Yeah, so something similar to snakes. I think something that's interesting here though, right, is that it's not exactly the same, only in the case, well, here's another thing that I don't think I said ever or wrote. I'm assuming that everything in game is pretty much static, right? Every move, that's not going to change. But things in map properties here would. That doesn't like make it that different. It's just that it's actually map specific state. It's actually state turn to turn and not just settings. Totally fine, and I love the idea. Just wanted to say that out loud. This question I still don't know the answer to, but yeah, I do think if you gave us a map properties thing per snake, or even anywhere, right? It doesn't even have to be per snake. It could just be board map state, and then that could have snakes or something, right? Each map could specify its own state however it wants. If it wants to have a snake array under it, great. Either way, I don't have a super strong feels there, but if we were to have a map state or map properties object somewhere in board, that would be really, really nifty for keeping state between things. Captain would work out the interface between the, like, in the rules repo, that interface would have to be played with, but getting a map state would unlock a lot of cool things. Because we've done map state before by putting hazards on the board and putting them way off board and things like that totally work. They definitely feel like hacks. They don't feel like things that we want to, like, do in an ideal world. It does seem like we want some kind of state. And I do think the best way to save state is, if we're going to save state, if a map needs to save state, it's ideal, I think, if the battle snakes can also have access to that state. Because then you can code, like, more advanced snakes can code around that if they know how the map works based on the state. It's kind of that predictability thing. So I think implementing map state makes a lot of sense and will unlock some cool stuff. And implementing it as something that gets sent in the JSON also makes a lot of sense to me. Because then snakes can also see it and react to it if that's meaningful. Yeah, and then I'm curious about game modes and maps. Just because I think it's hard. Yeah, like, I know we want to move to maps, or that's what it says here. I think that makes sense. But I think it's interesting, right? Like, I don't think it's super clear in my head what the difference between the two is, and maybe it's just that rules are, like, kind of ceasing to exist. But I'm just not sure. But hopefully these comments are helpful, Brad and team. I really like the ideas, and I like that we're maybe making some changes to the API here to support some fun game modes and stuff. I like it. Okay, yeah, so that was a good hopping through that and chatting about the API changes here. And you know what, team? That might be about all we are gonna do today. I didn't really have too much else in mind. Maybe we'll chat just a little bit about the community-led tournaments. This is super not official, since I'm just gonna say this without talking to anyone in Discord first, but I'm thinking we've got enough to maybe start planning for a first community-led tournament. It's the end of January now, so maybe we put it a month out and do the end of February or the beginning of March or something like that for our first one. I really think it would be a lot of fun to do these community-led tournaments, and we've got a good bit of interest in Discord to, I think, at least get one started. And yeah, so I think we'll do that. I'm currently thinking that maybe we'll do the snail mode map that I believe should be here. Yeah. So this was written by Jonathan Arns and myself on some streams that we could probably find some links to. But I think this would be... Oh, this was Jay Lafayette, not Jonathan Arns. I am super sorry, Josh. I was thinking this was with Jonathan. I apologize for that. This is with Jay Lafayette. But anyways, so snail mode is a really fun map. Or, yeah, it is a map. It's not a rule. And basically how it works is that when your snake moves, you leave, like, a hazard trail behind you that eventually fades away as turns keep happening. And actually, snail mode is under 150 lines of code. That's not too bad at all. Let's maybe make let's see if I can get the CLI working to run a snail mode game here. But then I think after we get a demo of snail mode up, we might wrap up for the day. This is a different project. This is my wife's portfolio. Let's switch over to some snake stuff. Okay, battle snake. Do I have the battle snake rules? No. Okay, so let's just open a new terminal tab here. Oops, not what I wanted. Okay, let's make this a little bigger. Maybe. Oh, maybe the wrong thing bigger. Oh, everything bigger. That's fine. We'll take it. Is there rules? No. Battle snake rules. That's it. This is what me and Jonathan worked on. We worked on the pre-update board stuff. I forgot about that. Yeah, okay. Let's just look at that quick, because that was the pre-update board stuff. So this was the PR that we put out that I think we ended up merging in a different PR here. And this is what we were working on. Oh, okay, so it was a combo of everyone. Because Jonathan and I worked on this pre-update board to change how snow mode works to not use off-board hazards. So we refactored the snow mode to use the pre-board update stuff that we built into the engine. Awesome. Okay, so I wasn't completely wrong about who I streamed this with. I still apologize, Josh, for giving Jonathan all the credit, but it was a team effort all around here this time. Awesome. Okay, so that was just reminding myself of that. But let's go and pull down. I think I just did this, but let's do it again. Go build. How do we do the build here? It's this. Build Battlesnake. It's gonna download all the things. Awesome. So now I should be able to go Battlesnake. And I think then I should be able to do things like this. Someone was just telling me how to do this, but I thought there was a rules. Can I just do help or something? How do I get there? We go. Okay. So what can I do? I can run map. Oh, because of course it's not rules, because they're not rules, they're maps. List. So here are the maps. We can see snail mode, info on snail mode. Awesome. Corey and J. Lafayette, snakes leave behind a trail of hazards, and it supports all of the board sizes. Tags experimental and hazard placement. I like those tags, those are fun. Okay, so let's see. I think we can do play. What does play need? Oh, it needs a lot more stuff than that. Okay, so we're gonna give the width and the height. Width of 11, height of 11. The URLs of the snakes, we'll do that in a minute. Game type is standard, that's fine. Map though. Map of snail mode. And then I think this is browser. This is gonna load the browser for the game. And then I need two things. I just need the name and the URL. And I think it goes name then URL. I'm not actually sure if it matters. Name Hobbs. URL is, I don't know if this is actually up right now, but let's do localhost 3000 hovering Hobbs, and then let's do name Irene, URL localhost 0 means localhost when you're sending request, and it means anything when you're binding. It's kind of a weird one. Irene is improbable. Irene, I forgot for just a second. Improbable. Irene. Okay. Oh, well, the only other thing that I'm gonna need to do there is actually start my snakes. Cargo run. Bin web axum. Release. Might as well run them in release mode. Take just a second to compile here. Wonder if I had upgraded Rust since the last time I had built this in release mode, because we had no cache. Almost done. Okay. Almost. Oh, come on, you can compile. There we go. Now we're compiling my actual binary here. Okay. Oh, something listening on port 3000? Probably. I must have something running here. There we go. The portfolio I was talking about earlier was still running. Battlesnake. play. Oh, no. I see. Cargo run here. This one I can just edit, because I'm not using you. And there we go. Okay. Okay, so maybe I need HTTP before these? Failed to parse response. Okay, well, let's just try local. Let's try, like, doing something without zeros. Maybe it doesn't like this. Nope. Is my snake working? And is it hovering? Is it hovering underscore hubs? Failed to parse response. Okay, so that just gave me a different error. Okay, well, let's just try curling hovering hubs, I guess, then. Oops. Well, that's definitely not going to work. Alright, curl localhost 3000 hovering hubs. Well. Oh, wait, what? That is weird. I didn't think that's what it was gonna return. Status 405. 405. Method not allowed. Requesting a resource via post method when the resource only supports a get. Huh? Okay. What did I do? Well, let's try. Okay. Well, let's boot this back up so that I can. Oops. Whoa. Wait a second. Wait a second. I got a firewall message. Where'd you go? Okay. Go away. Go away. Go away. Oh man, it's gone. Okay. Improbable Irene. Okay, so Improbable Irene is working, so it's definitely just something with Hobbs that I broke. So let's see. Oh, yeah, that says it's a post to info, which is wrong. Wow. Oh my gosh, is this what's happening? Okay, sometimes my VS Code like stops letting me edit things, and it's a great time. Oh, and then it crashed. That was fun. See, this is why we're not going to get much coding done today. It's just because the editors aren't going to work for me. Okay. We did that get there. Yeah, you can run Rust format. That's fine. It's pretty funny. I wonder how long that's been broken. Yep, that's working a lot better. Oh, there we go. We got it. Okay, and here is snail mode with their snaily tails following around everywhere. And there we have it. This is snail mode. Hobbs versus Irene. I haven't seen snail mode in a while. It's fun to see their hazard tails. Oh, Irene just took some dives through the hazard sauce there. But there we go. We got snail mode working. And Irene did okay. Not amazing. It'd be fun to see the TTL here so the snakes know when things are going to be removed and stuff, but that is snail mode. Let's run one more game because it was fun. But I think we will wrap up after this, and I think we will try to get a maybe snail mode tournament scheduled, unless someone else has an awesome map idea that they want to do first. But snail mode has never seen a tournament, so I think it could be a fun one. Irene hates those. I guess actually Irene here kind of knew that it was probably over, kind of. Oh, Hobbs knew, yeah. Hobbs knew from here, so it was definitely over, but Irene probably shouldn't have taken the easy loss. But anyways, I think I am gonna wrap up here for today. Thank you for hanging out with me and chatting about the new API changes. Hopefully those are helpful to the Battlesnake team. If you want to come chat about Battlesnake, come join the Battlesnake Discord at play.battlesnake.com. Why am I telling you? I can show you. You go to play.battlesnake.com and scroll all the way down to the footer down here. Under community, there's a link to the Discord. That's where me and Brad from the team and lots of other competitors hang out. We'd love to have you come and chat. So thanks for hanging out with me on stream, and I will see you next time, everybody. Thanks. Bye.